Hello, my name is Shania Siren, and today we are going to talk about applying to the 2022 Summer Internship Award. In this presentation, we're going to go over what the Summer Internship Award is, what are its requirements. We're also going to go over some frequently asked questions, thinking about how to use LinkedIn in identifying employers, strategies for reaching out to the employers, insight into how to design a strong internship, and also insight into how to draft a strong application for review. We're also going to give a theoretical timeline that I would recommend students abide by, and then time permitting, do some question and answers. So before we get really into what the award is, I really want to pause and be really clear about what the CLBR is using to define an internship. So we define it as a formal experiential learning that integrates knowledge and theory learned in the classroom with practical application and skills developed in a professional setting. So it's really important that when you're identifying potential internship opportunities, that you actually think of something that you can show evidence of from your past learning and professional experience. So we are looking for you to demonstrate that you are prepared to do the internship that you are proposing, that you're not proposing an internship that is completely out of left field, something that you have no evidence of experience in. So start to think about what you've learned in your coursework and what other professional experiences you have that would prepare you to do the thing you're proposing to do. So the Summer Internship Award is funded in order to support students who are doing unpaid and underpaid internships. And I'll go over later what underpaid is. But some quick points, the award is for $4,700 to cover the expenses associated with cost of living. So that's a really important point. We are not looking for you to propose a budget that is wage replacement. So in other words, if you are doing an unpaid internship and the minimum wage in the location you're doing the internship is $15 an hour, we're not looking for you to do the math and propose that this funding go toward wages that you otherwise would have made. We're looking for you to propose a budget that includes things like your rent, your utilities, groceries, medication, co-pays, any professional clothing, transportation, and anything that is associated with your ability to live through the summer while you're doing an unpaid or underpaid internship. We accept both in-person and remote opportunities. And primarily we're looking for employers to host you that are in the public sector, nonprofit, and other paid internship opportunities. Typically for-profit or private businesses aren't really accepted through the award unless they're able to demonstrate that your internship complies with the guidance from the Department of Labor. If you're unsure, you can definitely Google the internship requirements through the Department of Labor, and I would recommend proposing that your employer review those requirements to make sure that whatever internship that you two are working on complies with it. And it's really important to acknowledge that the Summer Internship Award does not fund research. So some quick requirements, again, we already went over, it needs to be unpaid or underpaid, research is not funded, and remote and in-person are accepted. So when you're designing your budget, we will want you to focus on, again, cost of living. And then it's important to also acknowledge that per Reed's policy, college-funded international travel is only permitted if the country you're going to is a level 3 or below. So we cannot fund countries that are at risk level of a 4. And it's also important to know that your host employer, while you are working with them to design the internship, you do not have to have a formal confirmation from the employer to submit your application. So as the deadline approaches, if you haven't really got a hard yes or no yet, or you haven't heard back from your employer, we still recommend that you draft your application to the best of your abilities and still submit the application. We will, after reviewing materials, after reviewing all of the applications and making selections, if you are selected, after that point, we will then need a confirmation from your employer, but not at the time of the deadline for the award. The application is found in Handshake, so you should be able to type in Summer Internship Award in the job section of Handshake, and the application will populate for you when you're ready to submit. Some frequently asked questions that I wanted to go over to help you continue to think about whether or not you're going to apply to this award and what an underpaid internship is. So I am often asked, can you stack these awards? Can you apply to multiple awards? And the answer is yes, you can apply to multiple awards. However, depending on the awards that you apply to and are awarded, you may not be able to stack. So for example, Summer Internship Award, we don't approve of stacking this award on top of another Reed funded fellowship award. So we ask that you disclose in your application if you are applying to multiple awards, and if you are awarded, that you follow up with us and ultimately make a choice between the Summer Internship Award and potentially another award that you were given. And if you have any questions about that, you're welcome to reach out to CLBR. The reason that we are not open to you stacking funds is that the requirements for the award are that you complete an 8 to 10 hour internship at a total of 320 hours. And this really, an 8-hour internship at 320 hours is 40 hours a week. A 10-week internship at 320 hours is 32 hours a week. So our expectation is that you are working full-time through the summer. And for that reason, we don't approve you being funded for something else in the event that you aren't able to make time for both awards. Another question we often get is, what if my internship isn't confirmed yet or I'm applying to multiple internships? So if you are applying to multiple internships and you're not sure which one you will receive, we recommend that you draft your application toward the internship you are most interested in, and or the one that you think is probably the internship that's going to work out for you. So if you're, chatting with multiple employers and there's one that's been more communicative with you and is getting back to you faster, I would lean toward drafting your application around the employer that is more reliable. And if you are awarded and the internship doesn't work out, it falls through, you never hear from that employer again, you just need to reach out to CLBR. We are more than willing to be flexible and work with you and propose to change your award to another internship. So after the application deadline, you are awarded the Summer Internship Award and things don't work out. At that point, we will hold on to your funds, so you won't get dispersed your funding yet until you have found a new employer to host you. So you won't lose the award. We'll just hold on to the funds until you find a plan B. And a third question we often get is, what do you mean by underpaid internships? So an internship is unpaid if they offer you funding that would cover some of your cost of living, but not all of it. So oftentimes this might be a stipend of like $500, or you're getting paid minimum wage in a large city. And so some of your cost of living is covered through the internship, but there's still a remainder. And for that reason, you are welcome to apply to the summer internship to cover the rest of your financial needs through the summer. We ask that in the budget worksheet, you identify how much money you are planning to make through your underpaid internship. So we understand that what you are proposing is that you need an additional $3,000 to cover the rest of your expenses, accounting for the stipend. So we're going to transition here and start to talk about strategies for identifying an employer. So what I always recommend students do is first to create some sort of tracking system, whether that's a spreadsheet or a list, some way for you to keep all of this information in one place as you start to reach out to potential employers and alumni that might be able to host you for an internship. And I also really recommend using LinkedIn to your advantage. There is an alumni directory in LinkedIn, and then there's also an alumni directory in Iris. Using both is a great place to get started to find who works in the areas that you're interested in, and what are their contact info, and starting to draft some outreach emails. And in those outreach emails, you need to be prepared to talk about why you'd like to intern with them, and that Reed provides funding for the internship. Note, like, being really clear about the fact that Reed will fund you as an intern is great leverage as you start to, reach out to employers and alumni, especially with nonprofits. If you're able to be really clear about how you would like to be of service to them, what potential internship ideas you have, and the fact that they don't have to pay you to do this sort of work, they'll probably be very excited to discuss potential internship opportunities. And then I also would recommend that you have some identified learning goals for yourself. Familiarize yourself with the employer and the work that they do, so you can be really clear about how you would like to fit into their work. And be very clear about the timeline. So for some folks, they may not be able to do this internship unless you get the funding. So it's really important that you tell the employer that the internship is pending your ability to receive this funding. That way the employer isn't, the expectations between you and the employer are very clear, and they aren't expecting you to participate in the event that you don't get funded. So using LinkedIn is really important because you can then look up employers and alumni and put a face to their name, and they can do the same for you. So if you don't have a LinkedIn yet, I really recommend creating one. You're always welcome to create or to make an appointment with CLBR if you would like someone to help you get started. But this is really important when you are starting to think about who is interesting to you and what employers are doing the sort of work that you would like to do. Many companies are posting and publishing articles about their work on LinkedIn, so you can familiarize yourself with them before you reach out to them. And most professionals have their whole professional portfolio and their work history posted on LinkedIn, so you can really identify what people have done leading up to the job that they're doing. So that way, when you reach out to them, you're really familiar with their background, and you can have a fruitful conversation about their work and how you might be able to be a part of it. So really, LinkedIn is a really useful resource in making sure you are informed before you do outreach. And it also might help you identify some important questions you have as you do that outreach. It'll help you find folks who are working at the organization, so you can find a foot in the door and who to talk to. For example, you can find recruiters and folks who work in HR on LinkedIn, and it helps you learn more about the organization in general. And this is a quick overview. So in reaching out to the employers, again, make sure to create your spreadsheet first and really be intentional about contacting those employers and then making sure to put that in the spreadsheet. Who was it you reached out to? What organization were they at? How did you find them? What is their contact information? And what was the date you reached out to them? And then make sure in your spreadsheet to include, a section of why are you interested in them and what goals do you have for that potential employer? So that way you can quickly reference this spreadsheet as people respond to you. And again, like, add their contact info. And then in the event that you email an employer and they don't get back to you in a week, you can go back to that spreadsheet, look at the dates and say, oh, it's been a week. I need to send them a follow-up email. And then note that in your spreadsheet. And then in the event that you do get in contact with an employer and you have a really great conversation, use your spreadsheet to make a notes section so you can remember what you two talked about. And then, once you feel like your spreadsheet is ready, you want to prepare to draft that outreach email. I recommend outreach emails being very brief. I think one solid paragraph. Hello, my name is blank. I'm a junior at Reed College studying blank. I found your information on LinkedIn. I find the work you do at XYZ company to be really interesting. I'm currently looking into summer internships in the area of XYZ, and I would really love the chance to chat with you about your work. My institution provides funding for students to do internships through the summer, and I'm hoping to see if there might be opportunities at your company. And so that in total needs to be 5 to 6 sentences. I don't recommend sending a really long outreach email. The longer it is, the less likely people will spend time preparing to respond to it. So being very quick to the point, and being really thoughtful about scheduling time with them. So offering your availability for the next week is really easy for folks to then look at their calendar, find a time that matches, and respond to you really quickly with whether or not they can find time to meet with you. So these are some quick elements that I really want folks to consider. So in the event that you finally do contact that employer, you have time to set up, set up to chat. These are some questions that you want to think about before that meeting. What ideas for work does the employer have in mind? Like, are there any projects that they haven't been able to get around to? What are the organizational needs that you might be able to address with your skills? And being really clear and starting to think about what skills do you have that you really feel like you can use to support the employer. They don't know anything about you, right? So you want to be prepared to talk about the skills that you have and the research you've done into their organization and how you feel like those skills can support them. And also, what skills do you hope to develop through this internship? What are some of your learning goals? And how can the employer help support your skill development? And what are your broader learning goals? So if it's not, learning a certain skill, are you looking to network with certain people in this industry? Are you looking to just, explore careers? Is this one of a couple different paths you're looking at? Are you hoping to continue a certain job or project that you've already been working on? For example, in past years, we've had students who have been volunteering with organizations or doing federal work study through SEEDS, and then they use the summer internship award to continue working with that employer through the summer, and that's totally an option. Some other elements to consider. What is the timeline for different projects or sections of your summer internship? So as you start to get some clear ideas about like what you could possibly do with the employer, starting to break it out into like, what is the feasibility of getting this work done over the summer? Do you need to break this up into sections or weekly goals for yourself in order to prepare to get all of this work completed? And being really clear with your employer about what you think is going to be able to get done during the summer and what do you think, you might need to, start and then have somebody else from the company finish in the event that, it doesn't get done. So starting to be really thoughtful about what the timeline is, how much time you're going to be able to commit to some of the ideas you and the employer might have. And this is really important because when it comes time to draft your application for the award, we really want to see that you have thought through the project and all of the responsibilities that go into it and how that's going to fit into a summer. Some additional thoughts. Think about what your needs are as an intern. For example, how are you going to be successful and organized if you're doing a remote internship? If you aren't somebody who really thrives working over Zoom, but the internship is going to be over Zoom, being really clear with your employer about what you need from them to feel like you are getting your tasks completed and that you're supported during this internship. If you're in person, being really clear with them about, what type of work style works best for you. And then being really trying to check if there is any potential training that you need from the employer in order to get started. If there's any onboarding that they can offer you before you start your work. So that way you feel like you're integrated into this company and that the employer is doing their job in making sure that you feel supported and prepared to do the projects and tasks that you both have come to agree upon. So this is a quick overview of the application itself. We ask for you to submit a one-page resume summarizing your work experience and volunteer experience. And please keep it to one page. These are things that we are paying attention to in the application process. So when we go to review materials, we're looking both at the quality of your work and also, did you follow the rules we set forth in the application? We ask for a 1,000 word max cover letter that covers these following points. We need an introduction so we understand the summary of your proposed internship and who are you hoping to do the internship with, a description of the company's mission and purpose. And then these other bullet points really are what I was mentioning earlier, in that we need a description of your work. What are you hoping to do? What are your motivations for this sort of work? Why is it interesting to you? And what projects or timeline is this going to follow? What I usually see in successful applications is that the student has broken it out according to phases, like phase 1, 2, and 3, or a weekly agenda for the summer of what they're hoping to accomplish. So we can really see that you've thought about the timeline and the deadlines and the flow of the work you hope to do. We want a summary of the skills, knowledge, and other relevant preparation that you bring to this position. So, going back to what I mentioned earlier, in that we want you to choose something that you are prepared to do. We are paying attention to, your preparation, and that you are proposing an internship that you can demonstrate you've been working toward, that this follows, your work experience and your career path in some way. If you are proposing an internship that is, pretty new to you, you don't have a ton of experience in it, then you really want to start thinking about how you're going to create a narrative for why you're doing this brand new thing. How is the Summer Internship Award preparing you? Why is it a valuable experience that you try this brand new thing in this completely new field? And if you're not sure how to, craft that narrative, feel welcome to reach out to CLBR, and we're happy to help. And we want you to outline the desired outcomes for this experience and how they apply to your goals. So it is, again, really important that you are really clear about why you want to do this thing, how you're prepared to do this thing. And, if you don't have a ton of preparation, what are the outcomes? Like, what are you hoping to get out of it if this is a brand new experience for you? How is this leading to the next thing you hope to do? How does this fit in the grand scheme of your career path? And what are some tangible goals that you have for the experience? If your internship is in person, we need you to note any precautions that you and the host have agreed upon and will take to accommodate the pandemic's restrictions and conditions. And then at the bottom of the cover letter, we need contact information from your host contact. We don't do reference checks or anything like that for the award. The contact info is just for the sake of, making sure that we have some basic information in the event that we, needed to follow up with the employer, or that, there was some sort of emergency, but we don't reference the employers in this process. Finally, we need your budget. So again, we need an explanation of the expenses and cost of living over the summer, not to exceed $4,700. If the amount is beyond that, then it's important that you clarify in your budget how you're going to make up the difference. So if your cost of living over the summer is $500, that's a $300 difference. Being really clear about where that additional $300 is coming from, so we know that you are covered through the summer, both through the award and other sources of funding or personal savings. Some additional elements. So graduating seniors must particularly address in their application what role this opportunity plays in helping them transition into their first post-read destination. So for graduating seniors, it is especially important that you're picking something that is providing you the opportunity to transition into your first full-time position after the internship award is over. We are, again, looking for a connection to your field of study and career goals. We expect some level of experience or qualification preparation to be successful in this internship. And again, we're looking at how well did you follow the guidelines that we set forth for the summer internship awards. So again, we're looking at quality of the application and objectively, did you follow the directions of the award? And again, we want articulation of learning outcomes and how the internship will host, or how the internship host will support your learning and your professional goals. Here's a theoretical timeline that we designed. So today is February 11th. The application opened up February 7th, so it opened up this week. And really, right now, I recommend folks work on updating their LinkedIn, designing that spreadsheet for yourself, and researching some potential organizations. So that's really, I think, the first couple steps of this process is between now and the 17th, laying that groundwork for making sure that you have a LinkedIn in the event that employers and alumni go check it. Because as you send out emails and do outreach, the first thing people are going to want to do is figure out who you are. They're going to go to LinkedIn and they're going to find your profile. So making sure your profile is up to date, that you have a headshot and that you have information to provide folks as they search you. And once you feel like you've got to a point where your spreadsheet is ready to go, you've researched a couple organizations that you would like to reach out to and some alumni that you might want to talk to, the next step is crafting your outreach email. And if you're really not confident in that, that's okay. CLBR is happy to help you with this. But starting to craft some sort of template email that you would like to send out to folks. And then between March 17th February 17th and March 8th, really hitting the ground with sending out outreach emails and reaching out to employers and alumni and finding every single person that you can that you would that you would potentially like to intern with. And being really intentional about recording all of this in your spreadsheet. At the same time, you can also start to begin drafting your application. And by drafting, I really mean bullet points about what you hope to do, and starting to answer some of those points in the cover letter that I mentioned earlier. So starting to list some projects and activities that you hope to do if it applies to multiple employers, and some motivations and areas of interest. It does not have to be in full paragraph format. It just has to be more of a brainstorm. So that way, when employers reach back out to you, you already have these bullet points drafted. You've already brainstormed and thought about what you might do with these different employers. So then when it is time to have a phone call or a Zoom meeting with them, you already have, conceptualized some of the projects and ideas that you have for the internship that you can pose to the employer during a phone call or Zoom meeting. And then hopefully, by March 8th, you are starting to get to a point where you've developed some relationships with these employers, and that you hopefully are starting to really formalize some of the ideas that you have. And in that stretch of about 3 weeks, you are working to, decide which employer that you would really hope to draft your application around, and collaborate with to finalize your internship and your internship application. And again, you don't have to have a formal yes or no from an employer to submit your application. So by March 30th, and the deadline is March 30th, sorry, that's a typo. But by March 30th, you are submitting all of your materials, your resume, your cover letter, your budget. And then after that point, CLBR reviews applications. And then between April 15th and April 22nd, you will hear back from us about your status, and we will send award notifications out to everybody.